Airbnbs potentially getting fully banned out here in Hawaii, that is something that could possibly happen. There's a new bill that just got passed because of the emergency proclamation, and we're going to cover all of it, so make sure you stick around to get all the details. See you on the other side. What's going on, guys? Patrick here from PatrickLongleyRealty.com, and today we are going to cover this new emergency proclamation that just got passed, SB 2919, which potentially could shut down all of your Airbnbs on all the islands. And in this video, we're going to explain why this concept came to play, when it's going to be put into effect, and who is going to be affected by this. Before we jump into that, let me quickly introduce myself. If this is your first time here, my name is Patrick Longley. I'm a licensed real estate agent out here in Hawaii and have been for nearly a decade, helping buyers, sellers, and investors with their real estate needs. If you guys have any questions about this bill or anything else, feel free to reach out to me. I got my contact information right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. With that being said, let's jump into what this bill is, what the changes that are about to happen are, and who is going to be affected by this. So the reason why they put this bill into place was because of the Lahaina fires. That's what really pushed this through, and I think for good reason. There's been a lot of people who have been displaced because of these horrible events that happened in Maui, and there are a lot of people who own short-term rentals that don't even live in Hawaii, and there's not enough housing for people who have been displaced, who are local and live in Maui. So there's been an emergency proclamation put in by Governor Green to basically say, hey, if we want to rezone a certain area, we can do so. So if you have a legal Airbnb, we could potentially rezone it and force you to say you can't do short-term rentals anymore, forcing that seller and taking away essentially their property rights and forcing them to have to potentially sell the property or rent it long term. Now, the idea is this would help solve the housing issue for a lot of people who have been displaced from the Maui fires and give more inventory to the market to allow them to rent a place long term, opposed to it being vacant or only renting it out to short term or vacationers. So I can understand the mentality behind it, but I do have some opinions. I will reserve that towards the end, but that is the main concept of why this law has been put into place. Now, we haven't gotten the numbers for Oahu, but I do have this article right here that basically says their plan of action is to get rid of 7,000 potential units that are currently running as legal Airbnbs or legal short-term rentals in Maui, to basically say you can't do short-term rentals anymore. You either are going to need to sell your property or you need to rent it on the long-term rental market. Now, this regulation and this bill that was put into effect will go into effect January 1st of 2025. So it's not immediate. It's going to take some time. There might be some ratifications or changes to it, but that is basically what is going to happen and when it's going to happen. Now, who does this affect when it comes to actual homeowners? Well, of course, if you own an Airbnb, a legal one per se, and it's zoned for short-term rentals, you potentially could lose your property rights. Even though you bought that property, you did your due diligence, it's zoned for Airbnb, you're running a successful Airbnb, you potentially could be under the scrutiny of the local government and they could basically change the zoning. Now, I don't know what that process is. It's still kind of going through the works. I think it's going to take a lot longer. And again, it's not going to go into effect till 2025. So between then and now, there'll be more information coming out. I'll make sure that I update you on how likely that could potentially happen to you and what due diligence you or your agent could do to protect you, to make sure that if you are buying Airbnb or an investment property that you're not put into that bucket. But as of now, it's one of those things that there's certain people that might be more at risk than others. The first people who I think will be more at risk is the people in Maui. I think if you own an Airbnb in Maui, you may be more at risk simply because that you are in Maui. That is where the fires were. This is where most people have been displaced, and that's where I think they're pushing it a lot harder, but I think it will slowly overflow into the other islands. The second group that will actually may be affected is the midterm rental market. Now, I think that there's a lot of people who basically got into the midterm rental market. I did as well. For people who wanted to buy a property, but was not zoned for short-term rental, but they knew that they could make more money if they rented it out to remote workers, traveling nurses, snowbirds, and basically, once again, they could rezone a certain area and say, hey, you're not allowed to do 30-day rentals or even 2-month rentals or 3-month rentals. You have to do 6-month or 1-year rentals, which would basically take out those people. And then of course the third one would be certain Airbnb owners that are on the surrounding islands, but maybe people who have, very nice Airbnbs on the beach. I don't think those people will be too much at risk, because the reality of the situation is telling those people that own an Airbnb on the beach or somewhere that's very lush, very expensive, that's really not going to supply a lot of inventory for displaced people that maybe don't have a lot of money. They're not going to be able to rent that place anyways. So why would the government tell them they can't do an Airbnb when if somebody wanted to rent a 1-bedroom and it's right on the beach and it's going to be $5 or $6 grand? That's not realistic. To say, hey, you can't do a short-term rental, but then they're not going to be able to rent it and have it make sense. So I don't know if those people are really at risk, because the reality of the situation is it wouldn't really make sense. But who knows? The government's wild out here. You can't always put logic to a concept and think that that's gonna make sense for them as well. But I don't think those people are too much at risk. Well guys, that pretty much wraps it up. There's still a lot of information that is unknown. We'll see what happens between January 1st of 2025 and now. I will keep you updated as information comes out. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I got my contact information right here, or you can directly DM me on any of my social media platforms. With that being said, if you guys could do me a huge favor, make sure you smash that like button as well as click the subscribe and notification bell so you get notified whenever I drop updates or more information on this topic. And let me know, what are your thoughts? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is this gonna work out for everybody? Put them in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from you. With that being said, I'm Patrick with PatrickLongRealty.com, powered by eXp Realty. Hope you have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you soon. Aloha.